Welcome to the Wayne Bennett Podcast, celebrating West Virginia's people, places, and the culture of Southern Appalachia. Now here's your host, Wayne Bennett.
Welcome to the Easy Come, Easy Go Net Podcast. This is Wayne Bennett, and today we have two special guests. We're going to talk a little bit about movies, and instead of Siskel and Ebert, we have Bernard Bostick and Diana Bennett. Welcome.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
And I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen many movies in the past year, especially haven't been in the theater, but we're going to talk about a few old ones. And I want to share with you, give you guys something to think about. Think about the first movie you've ever seen in the theater, if you can remember. And the first one I ever saw was at the Old Palace Theater in Beckley, and my sister took me up there, and I was only 6 years old, and it was Davy Crockett. And the Old Palace Theater, which later became a theater for local curtain callers, but it was packed, and it had an old wooden floor, and Davy Crockett had a show, Fess Parker was the actor, and he had a show on television sponsored by Walt Disney, and then this was the first movie that I ever made, and it really went well. And we walked about a mile and a half, and I think back then it was only about a quarter. This would have been about 1956, I think, to you. And
the year I was born.
Okay, well,
You had to throw that in there.
Okay.
we're offering an upper middle class point of view here, and middle-aged point of view. So, but anyway, the second movie I ever saw was at the old Beckley Theater, and it was Love Me Tender with Elvis Presley. And my sister was a teenager, and I was about 7 years old, and I wasn't paying too much attention to the movies. I just kind of glad to get there. But in the movie, Elvis Presley got killed, the character that he played. And all these teenage girls in the theater were started bawling and crying, and I couldn't figure out what in the world happened. Didn't know what was going on. And then I realized later it was the idol had died and the character. And the producers of that movie had caught so much flack that Elvis was never killed in another movie. That was his first movie he ever made, and he was killed in it, but he never got killed in another movie. So those were the first two that I saw. Bernard, you remember the first one you saw?
The first one I saw was, I would think I was in the third grade, and I was going on a date with this little girl.
Third grade?
Third grade.
And her mom, had set it up, and her older sister was like, 7th, 8th grade, something like that. She was taking us, all right. And it was Dr. Gold, Farb, and the Bikini Machine. And it was at the, I want to say the Lyric, which was across from, the whole building fell down. Across from
That would have been
Murphy's.
the
Was that the Lyric?
Yeah.
Then I probably saw a few of them. And then the biggest, one of several mistakes I made with movies. But this one, I think I was in the second or third grade then. And I went to the movies right after school one day to see The Sound of Music. It was out. I know. You wouldn't think I love musicals, but that and probably Brigadoon is probably my second favorite musical. All right, anyway, so I go with this kid by the name of Danny something, and I had some money, and then, like you said, I think even then it wasn't like 25 cents. I think 50 cents I could get in and get a box of popcorn and a cup of 7-Up pop. And come back. Well, by then, my dad and mom, they couldn't find anybody. They didn't know where I was at. The other lady, Danny's mom, didn't know where he was at. I mean, it was a major, and I would be scared too at that time. And so, I got a beating for The Sound of Music. And I'd say to this day, every time it comes on, I tell my daughters, they're like, "Yeah, Dad, we know, we know."
Well, first movie that I remember going to, we lived in Niagara Falls, my brother and I, and Dad would go on job interviews, and he would put my brother and I in the movies. Well, I was probably about 4, and Danny was probably about 5, and he'd buy some popcorn, sit us down. Well, he didn't even look to see what was playing. It was the scariest movie I have ever seen. So Danny and I are sitting there in the movies. Danny's crying, and this man, I guess he saw us, and he came and sat down beside us. Now, he'd be, in a lot of trouble. And Dad would be too. But that's
the
That was the first, and since then I don't like scary movies. I don't watch them at all. And I guess the second one I saw was Old Yeller. You could pay your money and stay all day. Yeah.
You were glad for punishment.
Oh.
Well, the first 2 or 3 times you'd cry, but then after you knew, where it was coming, you'd either close your eyes or go to the bathroom.
Started looking at the plot development. And,
Well, I know the Lyric Theater later, they you paid 75 cents and you could go in, and I know that a lot of parents used that as a babysitter, drop them off and pick them up 4 hours later. It's cheap babysitter, and even now, I don't know whether this happened when you guys were kids, but we used to have a back to school show. Beckley Theater had it, and J.C. Penney's was uptown. And if you went into J.C. Penney's, they would give you a ticket, and a ticket would be like a 1-foot square, and you had to have a ticket to get into the Beckley Theater, and it usually was a Three Stooges movie and a cartoon, and then they would have some prizes. And I'm telling you, the place, it was hard. Those tickets were in demand. I mean, it was packed. And of course, the entrepreneur the boys in my neighborhood, we'd go in to J.C. Penney's several times before the movies and get several tickets and then try to sell them, even though they were free. But if you couldn't get one, some people would buy them. But it was really popular. I don't know when they quit doing that, but it was always a back to school thing. But now that we're talking, if you had to pick, I know this would be difficult. It is for me, but if you had to pick 2 movies, if you could only pick 2 movies that you've seen in your whole life, and that would be the only movies you could see from here on out, what would be the 2 movies? My 2 movies would be The Wizard of Oz. I can watch that over and over and over.
Just not to play from around here.
And Forrest Gump. I think I could watch Forrest Gump just about every day. And I think Forrest Gump, Wizard of Oz, I never could figure out why it's tied into Christmas. I mean, other than make a wish, or wanting a wish, granting a wish, or whatever. But it always comes out, they start playing it again around Christmas time. And then Forrest Gump, I think one of the reasons why I liked it, of course, I think I like Tom Hanks, but I lived through a lot of those events, during the Vietnam War and the Chinese table tennis thing and all that. I just, it was a good movie. I think, it had 11 nominations for Academy Awards. It was good. But what's a couple that you would?
Well, one that I always kind of go back to is The Quiet Man with John Wayne, and it's he's a boxer and he accidentally kills a guy, and so he goes back to Ireland because he has his ancestral home there, and they don't like him, but he kind of falls in love with Maureen O'Hara, but she's meaner than a striped snake and just has her own, pretty headstrong. And Victor McLaughlin, who was a boxer for a long time, and he ended up being in a lot of John Wayne's movies. He had the nemesis, and he was her uncle or brother, and he wouldn't, there was dowry involved, and it was just really good, and
One of the best fight scenes I've
Longest
ever seen.
longest fight scene in the history of cinema is that one.
Really?
Yes.
They fought all the way out of town. I mean,
It's just like, God, I'm tired watching it. You know, and people that are dying are getting out of bed to watch it, and you know, I mean, it's crazy, but that's what we named Mary Kate after. Hoping it should be that mean, and we haven't been disappointed. She's that tough and stands up for herself. Man, and the other one, gosh, I don't know. I mean, there's so many good old
Sound
ones.
of Music.
That's a very traumatic time for me. Gosh, I mean, I always liked The Godfather, and I've only seen it a couple times.
Gosh, I love The Godfather.
You know, it is. I can watch it over, and the way they tie everything together. You know, in that regard, I mean, it's really, you know, you there's so many plot twists, and it's like, and it's long, but it gave you a glimpse. I don't know how truthful it was to the Italian people who live next door to us. And I thought, man, maybe these people aren't too bad after all. I just don't want to get them mad at me.
Yeah, that would be a tough one. I mean, I like The Godfather too, and I still watch it as often as I can. But what about you, Diane? What's
Of course, mine would probably be romantic comedies, any of those. I like The Notebook with Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams. I guess you always think that once you marry, you know, you're going to carry through.
It's over.
Well, you know, and then at the end, you know, where they're found together, you know, I love that. And anything that has Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, Sleepless in Seattle, or
Tom Hanks?
Tom Hanks and
Okay.
and
I thought
I've
Billy
Got
Crystal
Mail.
was in Sleepless.
no, that's
No.
Harry Met Sally. That's a
Oh,
good
okay,
one too.
okay.
Yeah, I'll have what she's having.
Yeah. Well, I'll throw one out at you that I really, really liked, and Val really likes it, but it's just it wasn't really big, but it was Somewhere in Time. Have you ever seen that?
I don't think
Christopher Reeves, the guy that was, well, not Christopher Reeves, who was the guy with Superman that got paralyzed and
Reeves?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Christopher.
Okay. Yeah, he was in it, and he was I don't know. It's just interesting. I don't want to spoil the plot, but it's really kind of like that. They end up together in the end, and it's not where you'd think they would be, and it's just cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's just so many anymore.
Well, I tell you, one that I really had to think about too, because I watch it as often as I can. I liked Paul Newman, and I loved Cool Hand
Luke.
Yeah, and it was my favorite that he made. I mean, he was really. I don't think you could. He didn't win an Academy Award or anything for that, you know. And I think they kind of George Kennedy won Best Supporting
And did a
Actor.
good job.
Yeah,
I've always thought he was underrated.
But I don't think Paul Newman ever won an Academy Award. I think they gave him one later, a lifetime service type thing. But which brings me to let's go back. I know if I had to pick whom I think is the best actor and the best actress, I would have to go back with Hanks again, and Meryl Streep. I mean, you can't. I've never been a super fan, but she's just
Tough.
good.
Yeah,
she's good.
yeah.
She's good at everything she's done, and quite an eclectic group of roles too. But if you went back a little farther, I don't think Bernie likes her, but I liked Elizabeth Taylor and some of the roles that she played, and.
She had a lot, like most actors and actresses. She had a lot more looks than she had talent, I thought. But I saw her. Was it Ivanhoe? When she was like 16 or 17. I mean, she just started, and I'm like, good grief,
Wasn't she in Black Beauty too?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was,
I think
guess that's
every
probably the
little
first.
kid's been a Black Beauty.
Yeah.
Start with Mickey Rooney, Shirley
Well,
Temple,
that's
something
true.
like that. But yeah,
I like to think Katharine Hepburn.
good.
She
Yeah.
was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I liked on Golden Pond. I think she was in that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when she was older, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, another male character that I really liked, he would have been right there in the top three, and then Jimmy Stewart.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, even though he was a tall, lanky guy and had the same type of voice, and he could still play. He could play a cowboy picture. He could play
do it all, yeah.
Harvey. Well, it reminds me, he played in the movie Harvey with that was the
Invisible Rabbit.
the big rabbit, and it's Bernie. Do you still dress in a pink rabbit suit?
Yes, I do.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Why you got to bring up the past, bro? But
And how often do you do
well,
that?
that's not real important. But James got that. My brother got that for me this past Christmas, and so I've worn it a couple. You know, I go somewhere on Christmas to somebody's house. Yeah, I'll wear it. And it fits. I mean, my mom loves it, and right now my mom's 87, and she's at the age where you want to
Make
let
her
her have
smile.
good times, and
Well, that
And-
kind of went along with the Christmas story, Ralphie.
Yep.
And the rabbit
Yep.
suit.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right. I forgot
Right.
about that. Yeah.
But I don't think you can pick just one or two movies. I think you have to pick one or two dramas, one or two mysteries, one or two musicals, one or two, biographies, comedies, romantic comedies. I mean, there's just so much good stuff out there that, and then I always talk about Humphrey Bogart, Maltese Falcon, love Casablanca, but then there's just some. You talk about that to people today, they don't have any idea who that is.
Yeah.
And if somebody's not shooting 5 people every 30 seconds, it's not a real movie. And some of those older movies where you actually had to pay attention and follow the plot, I mean, those, they were really, anything Orson Welles did, they're all really well written, and I don't see that a lot anymore. In some television shows I do. We watch a lot of British television, and some of them are, great. All Creatures Great and Small, which is just a soapy kind of show, but and it's great. But the detective stories, I mean, and they do it different than here. They'll do a whole season is just one mystery. So and they go down 4 or 5 different paths, and when it comes to the end, it's like, daggone, I'm smart, and I didn't see it coming. And then I was like, no, you're not. But I didn't either.
Well, and then you have motion pictures that have good acting, but then there's also the entertainer. There's some people that were great entertainers, like James Cagney. Not necessarily the greatest actor, but surely a great entertainer. He could dance, he could sing, he could act. I mean, he did, and a lot of actors couldn't do the things that he did. I don't know, but then there's a lot of movies that have been made that the critics, of course, now we have a lot of choice watching Netflix and shows like movies like that or venues like that. But the critics haven't always been kind. Like, for instance, Hillbilly Elegy just came out this past year
movie.
with Glenn Close, and the critics just killed it. I mean,
I'd heard that too, and a lot of social media and people I know I think they hated it more. It really happened in Kentucky. It wasn't West Virginia, and I don't know what it is in the movie. I mean, you read the book, didn't you?
yeah, I read the book. Well, it was actually more in Ohio and Kentucky
Okay,
and that area, and I didn't actually see it as much as a hillbilly elegy, but I thought Glenn Close. We saw the movie, and I read the book, and I thought she ought to be nominated for an Academy
Good.
Award. I thought she did a great job, and I mean, some of the as a resident in West Virginia, I can really identify with some of those people. I mean, I see them every day.
And that might be why people didn't like it.
might
There's
have
my
been too.
aunt. There's my sister. You know.
Well, some people, some of the critics were saying, well, it's giving us a bad image
Might
and
hit
it's
too
making
close.
fun of us, and I welcome that attitude. Matter of fact, my whole theory is, it would solve unemployment. We wouldn't have to deal with dirty politics or anything like that. It's just make West Virginia a national park and give everybody a job as a park ranger, and that would solve unemployment. We'd all have jobs.
Or an actor.
And we'd just be ourselves,
Kind of like Colonial Williamsburg. Everybody walks around in bib overalls and bare feet.
There you go. But, any other actors or actresses that you can think of that?
Well, then you would have to mention Henry Fonda.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Henry Fonda.
Yeah.
And Bing Crosby and Bob Hope did some good pictures.
Yeah.
They did.
They were lighthearted, and I think at the time when all those were being made, that's what they needed. They were really talented. Gene Kelly, and it's just.
Well, I like Jack Nicholson, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and The Bucket List, and all that. I mean, yeah. But when they get older, like Marlon Brando and some of those guys, then the script it's kind of limited. What kind of roles you get. And worse for females.
Yeah.
And even less for blacks. There's more now than probably ever before. But as you get older, it's tougher to find the roles. And what we're going to do, I'm going to give you a quote from a movie, and I'm going to ask you to tell me who the character is or who the actor is, and then we'll have a bonus thing. This is not a contest. We're just seeing and we'll start.
Well, it better not be, because she's starting to Google everything.
Wait a minute. You don't have that much time. All right, and it starts off. We'll start off easy. How about this one? And I'll try to make it sound as original as possible.
Don't.
How about there's no place like home? No place like home.
Wizard of Oz.
Dorothy.
Wizard of Oz, and who did it?
Dorothy.
And who was the actress?
Oh.
That's right, Judy
Judy
Garland.
Garland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, how about this one? I know you'll get this one. My mama always said life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah, Tom Hanks.
Forrest Gump is the movie. Forrest Gump is the character. Tom Hanks was the actor. And how about this one? I'll be back.
That's from first Terminator. Yeah, Schwarzenegger in the first Terminator movie.
Yeah, and he was called the Terminator. That
Yeah.
was his, yeah.
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger. Okay, you mentioned this one before. Here's looking at you, kid.
That's Casablanca.
Yeah.
Casablanca.
Humphrey Bogart.
Humphrey Bogart. Now, tell me the guy's name that he played, the character. This is
Rick.
Rick.
Is his first name.
You got that from Rick. What was the name of the restaurant?
It's Rick's Bar or something.
Yeah. Yeah, the guy, his character was Rick Blaine.
Blaine, huh?
Yeah. And
I have never seen that movie all the way through.
It's good. It is good. I mean, Val and I've watched it a couple times, and it's a romantic movie, and it's good. It's really good.
I
Paul
wasn't
Mooney.
always a big fan of Humphrey Bogart, and I still think he was limited in his roles.
Yeah.
But I loved African Queen, man. I thought that
In
was,
his role, he did. I mean, it was kind of like him, but he did really great. Yeah.
yeah, it was just.
See,
And have you ever noticed a lot of the old movies how much smoking went on?
I
How
know.
much
oh
people-
man,
Yeah.
they light cigarettes up all the time, and it was just the thing to do. And now you never see it, and just the attitude has changed. But how about this one? There's no crying in baseball.
A League of Their Own.
Ooh, Tom Hanks again.
Tom Hanks. Now, what was the character he played?
I can't remember.
He was a former
He was
He's an
professional
old baseball
Yeah.
player.
and is Jimmy Dugan.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And I loved that movie too because it kind of brought in history, even though it wasn't true. It
Yeah,
did deal with
I liked
some.
Gina Davis in that.
She did a good
was
job.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was really good in that one, and I like baseball. This was also mentioned earlier. Going to making an offer you can't refuse.
Godfather.
Vito Corleone. And it's
Corleone and Marlon Brando.
Yep.
And of course, this is one that's probably one of the most recognized ones. Quotes is, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn."
Gone with the Wind.
Yep.
And
Rhett Butler.
Rhett Butler, Clark Gable.
Clark Gable. We talk about smoking. Gable, Steve McQueen, John Wayne, all
Spencer
those
Tracy.
guys smoked and died of lung cancer.
Yeah, that's sad.
And I mean, I loved every one of them.
And you wonder how many kids grew up smoking because they did,
Oh yeah.
And that was cool.
and they died. I mean, it's people don't look past the initial reaction.
And then this one, I love this movie. I read the book. It was a very, very short book. And Love Means Never Having to Say You're Sorry.
Love Story. Megan
Ryan O'Neal
and
and
Allie McGraw.
yeah,
Ally McGraw. And that was,
They
big-
were dynamite together.
yeah, that's, and the time, that book was a big seller before it became a movie. And there was also a book, I never could figure it out. I've read it several times, but it was Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
I've read that. Yeah,
And I think they even made a movie of it. I can't even I never watched the movie. I couldn't imagine watching a bird fly around trying to break a speed record. But but Love Story. But I always thought love means never having to say you're sorry. I always thought that was the wrong quote. I thought it should say love means being able to say you're sorry.
always saying you're sorry. In my case,
But yeah, how about this one? Go ahead, make my day.
it's Dirty Harry, Clint Eastwood,
Dirty Harry, Clint Eastwood. What was Harry's last name?
Callahan.
Oh man, you
Gosh,
got.
you're good.
I saw. I mean, I saw all those over and over and over.
And this one, Show Me the Money.
That is Cuba Gooding Jr. and Tom. What's his name?
Few Good Men.
Yeah, Tom Cruise. But I can't remember
Cruise.
the name of the movie.
Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire. Okay.
Jerry Maguire. And okay, we might get a little tougher now here. You guys are cruising along here. How about this one? You'll get this one. Well, you may get some of it. What we got here is failure to communicate.
That's Strother Martin.
That
Cool
was
Hand
in-
Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got that one. Strother Martin. I figured you'd. And you see, Strother Martin was on all the old Gunsmoke shows and everything. And I mean,
He probably made a fortune.
what
Because
did
he did a good job.
what did the prisoners call him in prison? Or what did they call him?
Oh, now that. I don't know.
They referred to him as Captain all the time. He was the warden, but they called him Captain.
That's right. I remember that.
And when they were talking about him. Now this next one, how about this? Bond, James Bond.
I never heard of that.
It was one of the James Bond's movies, but which one?
Okay.
All of them.
All of
every
them.
James Bond movie. Every guy that acted James
Which
Bond.
one said this?
Sean Connery said it first.
Jean Connery. Okay, Jean Connery. And the movie?
Dr. No.
Russia with Love.
Diane, you cheat. It was Dr. No. And I watched some of the James Bond movies, but after a while.
Yeah, but they get it's. I mean, my brother could expound on this all day, but Sean Connery was good. Then he had a guy by the name of George Lazenby who was terrible, and then I think Roger Moore, or I think James Bond came back, or Sean Connery did, and then Roger Moore who kind of played it for laughs, and then there was guy played on Remington Steele. Yeah, and then there were two or three, and it just wasn't that. But the guy now, man, Roger Craig is. I mean, some people think he's the best ever.
Really?
He's that good. I mean, he actually does a good job. And of course they don't do car chases. They do car and helicopter and plane chases and jumping over. I mean, it's one's crazier than the next. But he's got my vote for the second best.
All right, how about this one? You talking to me? You talking to me?
Taxi Driver.
Taxi Driver?
Is that Al Pacino?
The other one.
That's Robert De Niro? Yeah, I guess it is, isn't it?
De Niro. What was his character?
Oh, man. Travis something. Travis
Bickle.
Bickle.
Yeah. And they actually said that in that particular episode that De Niro made up a lot of that stuff. He didn't follow the script so well, but that was the actor in him, and he did a great job. But how about this one? This might be a tough one. I'm walking here.
Midnight Cowboy, John Voight, and the little guy, Dustin Hoffman.
And
he can step in here anytime.
I don't know.
She can't scroll through it fast enough.
And Dustin Hoffman played the character Lenny, and he died during the movie. He had a cold. But
I can tell you what year. 1969.
Okay.
That was a good year.
Yeah.
But well, listen, guys, we didn't get quite as far as I wanted to, but it's been a fast 30 minutes, and I've enjoyed talking. Can I get you guys back sometime? I mean, the Oscars, Academy Awards are in April, and so we have a lot to talk about.
So does that mean we have to watch a bunch of movies?
No.
Well, I live here. I'll be back.
Oh well.
Thank you, guys, and I'd like to remind the audience. Until next week, if you ain't dead yet, you ain't done yet. And this is Wayne Bennett, and God bless you.